Hi guys, this is Morty here with the Not Normal Network. We are at StarFest 2018 down here in the Denver Tech Center, and we are joined by Mr. Dean Devlin, director, producer extraordinaire. How are you, sir?
Good, really good. Always happy to come to Denver.
Excellent. So, Dean, I want to get into a little bit about your history first off, and then I want to talk about what's coming up here real soon. Guys, if you get a chance tonight, where are we showing the movie at? We're at Centennial?
Continental. 10 o'clock tonight.
10 o'clock tonight at the Continental Theater. Tickets are still available, so we'd love to have you out. So, Dean, how'd you get in the industry?
Oh, well, I was born into it in a way. My father was a movie producer. My mother was an actress. In fact, my mother was on the original Star Trek.
Oh, really?
On the Wolf in the Fold episode. And she came home from the set with a phaser and gave it to me. I think I was 6 years old at the time.
Oh, my goodness.
That was like giving crack to someone who's going to become an addict. I mean, that was what started the whole damn thing.
So, when I was doing a little bit of research on you, I noticed that you lean to science fiction, and not so much hard sci-fi. Is that something from a fanboy's perspective? How did you get moved into that specific genre? I'm looking at ID4 and Godzilla, and just kind of going back through that.
Sure. I mean, when I was 13 years old, I used to come to these conventions. I used to enter the costume contest. I'm a hardcore geek at heart, and so everything I do, it's always from a fan perspective. It's always, what do I want to go see? And if somebody's not making it, then I try to do it.
Now, tonight, again, we'll have that premiere, but I want to talk about Bad Samaritan a little bit.
Yes, please.
So this was conceptualized several years ago, and you picked up the base story. Is that correct?
Well, basically, the writer is his name is Brandon Boyce. He's a wonderful writer. He wrote Apt Pupil and Wicker Park, and about 4 or 5 years ago, he'd finished this script, and he called me up and he said, I'm about to go out with the new script. Would you mind giving me some notes before I send it out? So he sent me the script, and I said, well, I only have one note, and that's don't show this to anyone, because I'm buying the script from you right now, and we're going to make the damn movie. And it's been an incredible experience. It's unlike anything I've ever done before. It's very reminiscent of early Brian De Palma movies. Or maybe the movie Disturbia. There's a lot of really good scary movies lately, but they tend to either have a supernatural aspect to it, or they tend to have like a creature in it or an alien. This movie is, to me, even more horrifying because this is the kind of horror that actually exists in our world.
That's an amazing point. When we were doing the show prep, one of the things that I was kind of zeroing in on. So this is a horror genre movie, but it feels like this is going to be something that's incredibly cerebral and rooted in the real world. And I love that you said that, because one thing that we lack quite a bit, because we have the great Marvel movies and we have the strange fiction, but we don't have is, what's the scary thing that's happening down the street? Where's the locked door and what's going behind that?
And as in the news right now, this false sense of security we have. Part of this all started because the writer realized that every time he handed his key to a valet at a restaurant, his house key was also on that key. And his home address was programmed in his GPS. And he realized they know where I'm going to be for 2 hours.
Yeah, they have your schedule completely locked down.
Schedule. So, and very few people ever lock the door between their garage and the house. So it's pretty easy for someone to get into it. And then, as you'll see in the movie, there's also the whole idea of technology, how we think we're safe with technology, and how that is actually something that leaves us really vulnerable.
That's something that the Not Normal Network we talk about quite often, is how we are experiencing growing pains with technology and that false sense of security that envelops us at any given time. I'm looking forward to letting that play out, and I can't wait to see it tonight. Dean, I wanted to ask you, and this is more of like a junior production, junior writer type of question. So one thing that we learn in broadcasting especially is that doors get slammed in your face all the time. You get a million opportunities, but you may only get that one to shine. So if you're a young writer, a director, a producer, the thing that I always say is shoot, right. What would you give to our younger audience? What would you say is what kept you going? Was it the passion?
I don't know if I was arrogant or stupid or a little of both, but I always assumed that I was going to make it. There was a point in my life where I was even homeless in New York. And even in those worst days of living in the back of a car, I somehow knew that I was going to get out of it, or at least I believed I would. And maybe that belief is what drove me forward. But for young people today, they live in an extraordinary time in that if you can get hold of an iPhone and if you can get hold of rudimentary editing you can actually make very high quality films for almost nothing. We couldn't do that when I was young.
That's exactly right. Because now, we're not on film. We're on SD cards, and
Yep.
and quite frankly, you can sit there with an iPhone. You can use iMovie, or we're mainly in Premiere for ourselves and Final Cut. But the fact that you can use a non-linear editing system on your phone
That's
right
right.
there, and you can shoot to edit the entire time, it's amazing.
And you have a distribution channel.
Yeah, exactly, YouTube.
You've got YouTube, you've got Vimeo. You post on Facebook. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Make as many things as you can. Write as many things as you can. I think one of the big mistakes that like young writers do is they'll work on one script for like 10 years. Never do that. Write it, finish it, go on to your next one. If you want to come back to it at another point and work on it, great. But the important thing is to keep writing. Very rarely does a writer write a good script until after they've written about 12.
I would agree with that. So Dean, as a writer, doing that professionally, do you have a sketchbook? Do you use your phone now? Do you constantly sit there and when ideas come up, are you plugging it down, giving a message to yourself, or using some sort of like workflow system?
Well, for me, I never write down ideas because I figure if I don't remember it, it wasn't a good enough idea. But when I do start to write, though, I'm a big believer in 3x5 cards. So I will, before I write anything, I will fill up an entire wall with 3x5 cards of every single scene in the movie. And I'm also a big believer in writing backwards. I really believe in know how your movie ends, and then write back to the best way to get to it. Because so many writers I know, they have a great first act, and by the time they get to the ending of the second act, they have no idea where they're going, and they're completely lost.
Now, do you feel that often a lot of tropes are overused? Because there's only certain ways to tell a story. Visually, we can do just about anything we want.
My feeling is this is a little bit different than what a lot of people say. Is I think tropes are tropes for a reason. And yes, you want to strive for originality. But just to do the opposite of a trope doesn't make it original. Just to do the opposite of a cliche doesn't make it good. So to me, understand why the trope works and then find an original way to get the same result. But very often people just want to do the opposite, like, oh, well, it would always end with the dog living, so I'm going to kill the dog. That doesn't necessarily make that better. It's just the opposite.
And do you often find that when you are you're doing an A/B plot or anything like that, when you're building that story out, do you find in the creative process that you have stopping points, you go back, you fleshed it out, and then you decide 2 days later, oh, this scene, it just is garbage. We don't need it anymore.
Oh, that's always part of the process. I mean, and sometimes it's not even because they're garbage. In Bad Samaritan, there's about 7 scenes that I love, and they're not in the movie anymore. But because you look at the movie and go, it's a great scene, but it doesn't work in the flow of it. There's this wonderful scene, and this won't be a spoiler because you won't know the context. But there's a scene where where David Tennant walks into this person's kitchen and he sees an apple and he's so happy to see the apple and he starts eating the apple and it's just so delicious to him. And as he walks through the kitchen, the camera tracks with him to reveal that there are 2 dead bodies on the floor covered in blood with knives in them. and he's just eating the apple, so happy. It was a great scene, but it didn't belong in a picture.
So with that, as a director, does that mean that you'll get your cut? You'll get your director's cut where you can see that. And that actually, I want to flip that into a completely different question. A lot of what we come out, and we're educators for the most part and run our network, but what we often find is when we're speaking to students or anybody, like I was talking 48-hour film festivals, anytime that you get a chance to shoot, the one thing that I always say is, do not be discouraged, and always come back to the fact that you are actually creating. And the reason why I bring that up is I wanted to ask you, as a producer, as a director, as a writer, wearing all of those hats, how great must it feel from conception to in the can to distribution?
Well, it's remarkable, and in a weird way, it's full circle. You know, I'm here at this Denver convention, but I was here in '94 promoting Stargate, and the reason I was doing that is because it was a movie that we had financed completely independently. MGM had agreed to release the picture, but they didn't own the picture or like the picture, and they didn't want to put any money into it. So I spent a year going to every single sci-fi convention, promoting the film, trying to convince fans that it was worthy of them being ambassadors for the film. And when the film opened, it had the highest October opening in the history of movies. Now, I don't think we're going to have that kind of opening with Bad Sam, but I will tell you this. If Bad Samaritan works, it's going to be 100% from the fans upward, as opposed to big giant signs saying, you're going to love this movie. It's literally the fans telling other people the movie exists because we don't even have the ad budgets to buy very much television ads.
So that's got to be both thrilling and also a bit frightening, I would have to imagine, to sit there and you're putting it all on the line. Like, this is blood, sweat, and tears that you're putting out, and you want. There's a personal validation, but I'm sure that you want for your art, for your creativity, that people enjoy this. And I think that a movie like this, and I love that you said that, because it's more of like a grassroots campaign, like especially what you did with Stargate. If this thing gets momentum and starts moving, you have no control after that. All of a sudden, it is in the hands of the fans, and that's got to be amazing.
But to me, that's where it should be. It's like we asked all the critics not to post their reviews until about 2 days before the movie comes out, because we want the voices to be the voices of the fans.
I love that.
And we've been screening it all over the country, and it's been this amazing experience. I hope you can come tonight. And what we ask the audiences is just simply, if you really liked it, please go on social media. Please tell your friends. This is the only way people are even going to hear that the movie exists, is because fans have told other fans. So I would much rather put my fate in their hands.
And one final question about this movie. David Tennant. And I'm not going to ask you how it is to direct him or anything like that. What I'd really like to know is, how did that feel to get him as a get? He's an accomplished actor. His star power is ridiculous right now. But I still feel like he wants to come and work on an independent film. So is this an example of an actor believing in the script, believing in the production? Is that what we have here?
I think he saw that he could do something that he hasn't done yet with the character. And when you see the film, you've never seen him like this. It's really, it's crazy. But the most difficult part of directing David Tennant is, he's giving you this incredibly intense performance, and he'll come to you after a take and say, was that right? Was I doing the right thing? And I'll say, how many TARDISes did you have? What was it like?
So how do you pull back the fanboy a little bit?
It's like impossible. It's impossible. You want to know too many things? You want to? Was Kilgrave really in love with her? It was like, it was very hard to not fanboy all the time.
And my last question, and thank you so much for your time here today. Did he have a TARDIS cell phone cover?
He did not.
Okay.
He did not. He was totally focused on making
wonderful.
the part.
Well, again, this is Morty with N3 Entertainment. Please check us out on NotNormalNetwork.com. I'm here with Dean Devlin, director of Bad Samaritan. Thank you so much for your time.
Go see it. May the 4th be with you.
How you doing?
Out of chaos comes order. I define the chaos. I create the order. You understand?
Now, where's last night?
All right, man.
Really? You still digital camera, man? You still use these? Absolutely.
I love this one. Crazy to think what you could do if you did this for your full-time job.
Just a poor, struggling artist.
Enjoy your dinner, sir.
I'll see you in 10 minutes, brother.
Welcome to Nino's. That's a beautiful car, sir. Yeah? Don't touch it.
Navigating home.
Oh, you beauty.
Yo, talk to me.
Black card. Shut up, Doc, for real? Yeah. Everything cool on your end, yeah? They're just getting their salads now, man.
Just checking here.
Jesus Christ!
Help me, please! We don't have much time.
Name so soon.
Maserati.
I'll be right up. Dude, the guy's outside! Where the hell are you?
I'm sorry.
He's got a girl chained up.
What were you doing at this guy's house?
I was robbing him.
Sir, we're investigating a girl chained up in the office.
Sorry to disappoint you.
You're gonna stay on it, right? You're gonna keep searching for the girl?
Stop harassing him.
Oh!
What's wrong?
We're not safe. None of us.
It's all good, I got your back. You're crazy, you know that.
Crazy people get caught.
You know why you're not in their little jail right now? Because you're in mine.
I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna get you out of here.